Hello, welcome everybody to Discover Your Ideal Body with Christine. I am honored and excited to welcome back my guest, Dr. Rod Chelberg. He has spoken before with us, and we promised he would come back because we wanted to talk about this amazing topic, the unreality of death. Before we begin, I want to read a little intro on Rod. If you didn't get to listen to that particular interview, here's a little bit about Rod. Dr. Rod, who is an MD, has been practicing different forms of general internal medicine for the past 28 years. During that time, he saw over 70,000 patients. He spent 14 years practicing emergency room medicine and was the medical director for several years at St. Joseph's Hospital in Bangor, Maine, which is where Dr. Rod is from, I always like to add. Following this, he became the medical director for 4 nursing homes within the Bangor region, as well as the medical director for Beacon Hospice, which is where he was responsible for 100 to 150 patients at any given time. He's currently retired from medicine and an adjunct faculty member at the University of Maine within the biomedical engineering program. Dr. Chelberg also lectures occasionally on the topics of death and dying with Dr. John Mundy, around the country. He's also been featured on Unity Radio, has given presentations on YouTube, and also written several articles for Miracles magazine. He recently published When God Calls, Say Yes, where he talks about his growth as a mystic and how he started to see and hear Christ in the emergency room. The book is rich with specific case histories of how Christ guided him in saving people's lives. Dr. Chelberg also discusses his experience of atonement and concludes with how he helps people now. Included are several poems, useful advice to guide others along their path towards atonement. His book is available on Amazon. And thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you.
Yay.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm really honored to be back. And I'd like to share with you a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the unreality of death. We have been taught by society that death is real, but perhaps it's not. In this talk, I'd like to talk about that and my experiences of seeing that death is not real. And I'll share some experiences with you about that. I am a retired physician, and I have seen a lot of patients and had some beautiful experiences watching people transition. So I'll share a little of that. Before we start, though, I'd like you to get comfortable and close your eyes. I want you to relax into peace and remember who you truly are. You are not this body. You are not this life. You are a child of God. Start to let go of all your concerns, all your tensions, and all your worries. Take a big breath in and feel that peace entering your body. Exhale and release all tensions of your life. Feel the gentle arms of God holding you up and reminding you that you are loved, that you are pure light, a holy child, a son of the everlasting Father, and that in truth, your life is eternal because God is eternal and God is there within your heart. Take a moment just to feel your heart vibrate to the heartbeat of God. So be at peace during this talk. And just listen to what I'd like to share with you. So the unreality of death is, what are we? We are in fact eternal light beings, and we take a momentary hiatus, a change, if you will, and become these form bodies, and then eventually we die. So I'd like to talk with you about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to share a couple of ER stories.
Yeah.
The first is an 80-year-old lady who came in, and this was my very first experience of seeing this transition. But she was in cardiac arrest, and they were coding her. And I then, once in the ER, had to resume the code.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran the code for about 20 minutes, and she was in asystole, which means her heart had stopped. So we said, okay, I called the code, we ended it, and I asked everybody to leave. Now, my habit has always been to pray for people with my hand on their heart
Mm.
and ask and say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I always figure it's my last act as a physician to pray for somebody, because then I know that they're going to go home.
That's beautiful.
After reading A Course in Miracles, I decided to ask a different prayer. And I said, I wonder what would happen if I asked Christ to come. So during that time, a bright red aura came into my visual field. And I looked down, and the woman, I could see her white aura, her perfectly clear. She got up out of the bed. She turns to me and smiled and said, thank you. Those two auras came together. They melded into one, and then they drifted off to my right side. And they went through these brilliant golden doors, and two white arms came out, embraced them, and drew them inside. Then the doors closed. I was left with the most amazing feeling of love and awe.
Wow.
I cannot describe that. And the ER, the entire room was scintillating white light.
Incredible.
And that experience was my initiation into what I see every single time when somebody dies. About 4 days ago, a woman passed away, and she's in Florida.
Mhm.
And the friend called me up and said, my wife is dying. I said, okay. So I asked Christ, and I get to see that red aura every single time. And then I know what's going on. And I was able to talk to him, and she's not ready to leave yet.
Okay.
She's got 3 days. She's got some resistance.
Hmm.
And then on the fourth day, she let go, and they melded. She accepted the peace of Christ and went home. So that was just, it happens all the time. And I call this process birthing someone into heaven. And I'm assisting in the birthing process.
Wow.
The second lady I'd like to tell you about
Yeah.
was in hospice, and she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Mm.
She failed all the therapies and said, that's it, I'm tired. You know, chemotherapy is not fun and I feel miserable.
Mhm.
So we talked about it, and she was an atheist.
Mhm.
And she said, what's going to happen to me? I don't believe in God.
Okay.
And I said, but God believes in you, and
Mm.
eternally, you
Yeah.
and your Father are one.
Yeah.
So I said, you're going to fall asleep. I'm going to keep you very comfortable, but not over sedated.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a very smooth, easy transition, which she did. So the day she died, I happened to be in my kitchen and I was working on my house.
Mhm.
And I stopped, and there was Polly walking with Christ's arm wrapped around her. And she walked by, and in typical Polly fashion, she goes and blew me a kiss. And I went, okay.
Yes.
And then there were the golden doors, and this time I leaned way over. I said, can I just peek? But they shut so fast, I couldn't peek. But I was again left with tremendous peace in my heart and tremendous love. The phone rang, and it was the family, and they said, we just want to let you know that Polly just passed away. I said, I know, I'll be right over.
Mm.
And so when I went to the house, clearly she was gone.
Yeah.
And I just let each person cry and be held. And that presence of love was still there, and it touched every single person in that room.
Oh.
And they felt tremendous peace. They said, we don't know what that is, but we know everything's all right. There's
Yeah.
nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And she's home. It's that simple. So those are just a couple of stories
You know,
that I wanted to share with you.
well, I want to just ask you a question because I
Sure.
want to know what you thought the first time that happened. I mean, what really went through your mind, after the experience and after you saw the gates and the illuminating white and then it dissipates away? Do you say to yourself, did I just see what I just saw? Do you go home that night and think about it, 50 times before you go to bed? What happens when this is
Um,
going on first go
I,
around?
yeah, I felt, first of all, there's no doubt in your mind.
Mm.
There is no fear. There's no I wonder. It's a complete knowing, a complete conviction that what you saw is real.
Hmm.
I'm seeing with Christ vision,
Yeah.
you see. So, and it's such a strong and powerful feeling. There was no doubt. I was just left with awe and
Yeah.
love and felt very honored to have been part of this.
Yeah. That makes sense. But
So,
I
and
mean,
I did not have any second thoughts at night. I was just like, I am a lucky man. I am blessed. That's what I felt.
yeah.
And even
Well,
to this day, I feel that.
and so you and I have talked beforehand about our own death experiences, and I'm going to ask you to share yours. And I think, in my opinion, I'm assuming in your opinion, I think that's the ultimate knowing. That's just, it's so,
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
no other, there are really no words to describe it. It's just, it's an absolute knowing. And
Yep.
I couldn't give any other words, but if you would be so kind as to share your experience, I would love to hear it.
This I've had a near-death experience when I was a child, but this is a different past life death experience. That I was a infantryman, I think French, during World War I, and it was trench warfare.
Mhm.
And so the bombs are going off, clear blue sky. This is as real as being here right now.
Mhm.
And I was in uniform and I was shot in the left lower abdomen and couldn't move very well.
Mhm.
And I saw my friends running towards me, trying to grab me and get me out of harm's way.
Mhm.
But then a shell landed right next to me, and it didn't explode right away, but my friends ran away. And I was so glad that they were getting out of there. And then I turned and looked at the shell, and in that instant, the shell exploded, and
Oh.
and I was instantly gone.
Mhm.
So immediately, I was in heaven.
Mhm.
Brilliant white light. All the pain was gone. Everything was gone. Time, space, the concept of Rod, the concept of war and body. It was complete liberation and complete freedom.
Mhm.
And I thought, that's it. There's no trumpets. There's no fireworks. That's it. I'm suddenly completely free, and
Yep.
my mind has expanded to infinity,
Mm.
and it was wonderful. And so that's the one that I remember. There's a couple others, but I think you get the point that
Yeah.
we go from a human form and we
Mhm.
go into spiritual form. It's like that,
It
and
is. Yeah.
instant release, an instant freedom, an instant. This feels really good, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And now to this day, I have no fear of death because it's a unreal. And I've had plenty of very close calls with death,
Yes.
uh, and there was no fear. It's just like, oh well, it's like getting
Mhm.
out of my car. It's no big deal.
It's just the
So
next progression.
it's the next adventure.
It's the
Yeah.
next. So I shared this with Rod, and he can interject a little bit because he made a comment when I told him what had happened. When I was 5 and I was in kindergarten, I had a terrible stomach ache. I went to a Catholic grammar school, and the teacher was not very nice to me. Had nothing to do with being Catholic, but the fact is, she was not a very kind teacher. She didn't believe me. Uh, I ended up being sick in the classroom. Fast forward to now, I'm home. It's now Saturday. The pain is tremendous. We lived in Queens at the time. I ended up at St. John's Hospital ER. I remember it was packed. I remember this doctor with an accent gave me green medicine. Thought I had the flu. Okay. I remember taking it, not liking it, coming home and throwing up all over my mother's couch. I'm telling you, I remember many details. The next morning, which was a Sunday morning, I remember sitting up on the couch. Again, I'm 5 years old. And I remember the morning sunshine just coming through the window, and I was screaming in pain. My parents very quickly, I mean, it wasn't even tears. I
Mhm.
bypassed tears to screaming. Took me to Elmhurst General at the time, and I I got diagnosed with a ruptured appendix. I will
Mhm.
let you interject with what that is. Go ahead. How you feel about a ruptured appendix. Go ahead. You can tell us.
Um, it's always pain first, followed by vomiting in the right lower quadrant. And it's like a kidney stone pain or a gunshot wound. It's pretty uncontrolled pain because there's blood irritating the peritoneum, and it's lethal. If you don't get to it in a timely manner, people die of sepsis, and there's nothing you can do about it. So about 3 days,
Yeah. So,
but but you can't walk.
no.
It's that painful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very painful. So, essentially, mine had ruptured in the house. And so we don't
Mm,
really can't quantify time really in my memory of how long it was that I actually got into the ER. Other than that, I remember being on the stretcher looking up at a doctor who I now identify as an Israeli accent. And I felt very reassured with his abilities. That's all I could say as a little kid. Like,
mm,
whereas the other doctor, I didn't feel so good, but I felt good with him.
mhm,
To
mhm.
then a quantum leap into that, I did end up septic, which, by the way, the totality of my hospital stay was 17 days,
Yeah.
12 days in the ICU. So this was no walk in the park.
That's what I'm saying. It's lethal.
So my memory and experience was that I ended up in a gorgeous crossing over a beautiful field of, when I say field, I mean rolling hills field of tulips, every
Mm,
color. And the color had such a vibration that it just leapt out at you. Um,
mm,
and I was following through the path. The tulips were tall, right? Because I was 5, so they were tall and I was little. And I remember them just surrounding me. By
mhm,
the way, I did look up the definition to a tulip, and it's the spiritual definition is perfect love. So very
wow.
interesting, right? Makes
Mm,
sense. And I was following this gentleman or man in a robe with a hemp belt and what I would describe as having a very bad haircut because I was 5. And to me, that longish hair in the back wasn't very even. So I knew he was kind and friendly, and I just walked along the path. We stopped in front of a gorgeous, bountiful, abundant, like the perfect tree you've ever seen in your life. Just beautiful.
mhm,
And when I say colors, I mean the sky was bluer than any blue you've seen. The green on the trees were
mm.
greener than
Yeah.
anything you'll see.
Mm,
And he turned around and looked at me and smiled. I realized it wasn't Christ, but it was John, his cousin, who is John the Baptist.
mhm,
And he bent down and he had a very thick book with a soft cover. The pages were uneven. And he flipped the book, you know, when it makes a fan, into my face. And he said, "You too will know this book one day."
oh,
And I giggled and I laughed. Uh, there is a little bit more of a memory of seeing like a brook with water. And it was like old rocks, you know, not like sharp rocks, like the water had
mhm,
really worn them away.
mhm,
And thus far, that's all that I can remember, and I know that more will come, and that's what
mhm,
they say, people who've had these experiences. But it is extremely and was extremely profound, and it's been a profound experience in my life. And sharing this with everybody is profound because the people who are close to me know about what happened to me.
mhm.
You know, my husband, my children, my close friends. But some other people don't. But now everybody does. Surprise! And I can attest to the fact that being in that next dimension is nothing but beautiful, gorgeous. I never for a second felt scared, concerned that I wanted to leave. I never felt
Mhm,
that at all, ever. I know that. I felt safer than any place I've been. It felt more like home than anything I know.
mhm,
So, so I kind of wanted to share that, you know. But you and I had these experiences and crossed over. And I was told, by the way, it was not my time and I needed to come back.
yeah. The
So
fine print.
the fine print, little sample to dangle in front of me.
That's right.
But and I'm grateful for the experience because I know I'm bringing this into my purpose. But there are people who believe that souls do get trapped and they don't necessarily cross all the way over. There's kind of that middle ground. I mean, what is that? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, the there appears to me now. I have friends that have studied lots of different aspects of spirituality
Mm-hmm.
for years, and they tell me about different colors of the chakras and
Mm-hmm.
different realms. And I said, I know how to take care of somebody that's gone through the windshield of a car. That's what I'm good at. But all this other stuff, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But I can tell you
Yeah.
that I have meditated, and I find, and I call it an etheric realm. Some call it an astral realm,
Mm-hmm.
and it's filled with people, and you see just the outline of them. At least I do,
Yeah.
and they're stuck, and it's like they're hanging on to baggage,
Hmm.
like two suitcases, if you will,
Yeah.
or barbells, and they won't put them down. And it's like that's lessons that they have to learn in order to be free. They have to learn to put those baggage down.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Yeah.
because it's you're in this realm as in a human being, and for whatever reason you die. If you haven't let go of those baggage, well, you've only gotten halfway home. You're not. You got to go back and do a little work and fix those.
Mm.
So the times that I've seen people that were stuck, the other reason they get stuck is death comes so quickly that they don't have time to adjust to it.
Hmm.
When Polly died, she died over a period of 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
and you can say she's got time to get calm, get her affairs in order, and she's talking and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But where people get stuck is in two cases, it's trauma of some kind.
Hmm.
So the first case is I was in a meditation, and I tend to sometimes float, leave my body, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to World War II, and there was active fighting going on. There was bombs going off, and I saw this shell of a building, and inside I think there was like 3 or 4 men. Um, 4 were lying on the ground. The 5th one was standing, and they were bloodied and obviously dead.
Mm-hmm.
But they were stuck because death came. A bomb must have exploded and killed them instantly,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't had time to adjust to, oh, I'm a spirit now,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So one man came up to me and he said, "We're stuck. We don't know how to get home.
Mm-hmm.
Where is home? You know, we died so fast." And I stopped and looked at him, and it was just a matter of get still and get centered and go, "Where's home?" Well, and a light appeared in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Do you see that light? It's always on the right side for me." And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "That's where you want to go." I said, "So just all of you stand up, turn and look at that light."
Mm-hmm.
And they did that, and this tremendous peace came over all of us. And then during that time, they all left, and the
Wow.
scene just sort of vanished. So it's possible that people get stuck because death happens so quickly.
Mm.
The other time, um, I was having one of these meditations, and I suddenly found myself in a farmhouse
Hmm.
that had burned down. And there was a woman standing there in front of me, and she had her arms around a little boy,
Mm-hmm.
and they had soot and burn and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was crying, and she says, we don't know how to get home. We're lost. And again, it's a matter of getting quiet and getting peaceful and giving Christ that chance to work. And I said, so again, the light was up on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you see that light? I said, that's where you need to go. And they turned and looked at it. She said, thank you. And they left. And the whole scene spun in on itself.
Mm.
So
incredible.
I've had this experience with many trauma patients
Mm,
that have died in car crashes or whatever trauma. And I can give you more stories, but I think you get the idea that people need time to
mm-hmm,
get used to this idea of death.
mm-hmm.
And if they have that time, that allows them to kind of like clean house and get rid of a lot of baggage.
Yeah,
But when it happens, like I'm sitting here and next minute I'm dead, it's like my soul is still sitting here talking to you, and you're going, oh,
yeah,
he just collapsed, hello.
yeah.
And
Wow.
so what you see and what I see are two different things. So in Gettysburg, uh,
Oh,
when I go to Gettysburg, there's a lot of trapped souls there,
oh, I
and
believe that.
so I'll meditate, and my fiance Jody lives very close to Gettysburg, so
Mm-hmm.
she says, "Oh, I know the back roads. It's through the middle of a battlefield,"
Oof.
and I'm like, "Oh," I said, "Can we just stop for a minute and can I just bring the peace of Christ in on this?" And so we're
Yeah.
driving through this, and I'm just peace, peace, and
Mm,
a lot of people get freed.
mm.
So that's just another little example. Yeah.
That's incredible. So we've talked about. I have to tell this one little story because I just spoke about it with my girlfriend. We went to New Hampshire one time we were
Mhm,
working a relay race, and there was a group of girls, and we were staying at this very very old B&B, and
mhm,
there were some rooms, and we could go here, there, and everywhere, but there were two bathrooms. It was like one down the hall and one within this room, and so of course we at the time we get there, all six of us have to use the restroom. So I proceed to walk into this one room, was the pink room. And the minute I walked in, I just felt like I hit a brick wall. And I was like,
mhm,
we are not going in this room. I said, because whoever's in this room doesn't really want anybody in this room. Now, I
mhm,
couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. And I said,
mhm.
whoop, I did an about face, and nobody went in there. Nobody used the shower. Nobody used the restroom. Nobody slept in the bed.
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
made do with our other accommodations. But, and I do feel blessed because I do believe my experience has blessed me with some of these abilities to be able to feel that. But it is as real as talking to you right now, and you feel it or sense it, in whatever form that comes in, and it'll get you. It's
What,
interesting.
yeah. When you're in those rooms, if you learn and can be comfortable and be quiet, ask, what can I do? Because usually whoever's in there is trapped and they
Mm,
want to leave, but they can't. And you become the conduit to say, I can hold the peace. I can ask Christ to come in. For whatever reason that person can't. And you don't need to be afraid. You can just say, oh, I can help you with this, and I can help
mm,
you to have freedom. So people say it's haunted and it's evil and all that. And there's nothing more powerful than God.
yeah.
And so you're protected because God is in your heart. They can't hurt you. And you go, okay, I can sit down and I can ask, what is it that I can do? And they say, I just want to go home. And you can hold them in your thought, whether it's one person, four people, or a battlefield. You
Hmm.
can help a lot of people go home just by learning to be quiet and realize that death is not real. It's just we're here in a temporary phase of existence, but our true nature is light and love.
Yeah.
So just I'm throwing that out there that
Yeah. Well, I think
that
it's great
it,
because
it's helpful. You can help people
it
free them
is.
up, you know.
And many people who are watching this may have had similar experiences. So I think to hear you say it, if they've come into contact, people are very intuitive and blessed and gifted. Many people, more than we
Mhm.
realize.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
if they come into contact with something like that or have that experience, to know what to do, what the right words are, I think is really beneficial.
We're taught to fear that
Yeah.
by television, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
oh, and it's like That's not true. That's not true. God is there protecting you, and that person is also God.
Yeah.
God is trying to reach himself,
Hmm.
but that person has a block for whatever
For
reason.
whatever the reasons are.
And you just say, let's just remove this veil, and oh, look at that, you're light. So
Um, so it's interesting because well, how would we describe necessarily the metaphysics of how things are happening, or how do you have a definition of how that works, or you could help the
um
science mind if somebody were watching this and questioning.
yeah, getting me to shut up is sometimes difficult, but I think I
Not
would
true, Rod.
I think I would back up just a little bit. When people die,
Hmm.
I've seen this many times, and they say, "Oh, my mom's here, or my dad is here, or
Mm-hmm.
Mother Mary is here, or Christ is here." And if you're not attuned to that, you say they're crazy, they're hallucinating. Doc, you gave them too many drugs. They're hallucinating,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going right.
Was it you who told me this? What Steve Jobs said on his deathbed?
Yeah.
You want
Oh
to share that?
wow.
Oh wow, that's right.
He was dying in the process, and he went, "Oh wow," because he could see
Yeah,
without his human eyes the
yeah.
brilliance and beauty of that. There was there was a lady that I was taking care of that had breast cancer, and I went to her home, and she's a very nice lady, chit chatting. I sat down and just checking on her, and I look up, and on the balcony I see this outline of an older woman,
Hmm.
very pleasant, very happy, and she was just looking at me, and I looked at this lady, and I said, "Do you realize there's a spiritual being, a woman, on the balcony looking at you?" And she goes, "Oh yes, that's my grandmother. She knows I have cancer. She's just keeping me safe, and it's keeping the cancer from being a problem." This is 10 years ago, and
Wow.
she's still alive. So
Wow.
there are times when I watched a woman die, and it's quite a sight to actually watch somebody die,
Yeah.
and you start to see this this beautiful outline come to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they go. I had a friend die about a year ago, and I brought Christ to her, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, "No, not yet."
Oh.
And I said, "Why is that?" I was curious. She said, "Well, my mom and dad are in their 90s, and they're going to die soon." She said, "So I want to walk with them and take them home. So
Oh.
I'm going to wait." Now, there's no time or space in the spiritual realm,
Right.
so that was very beautiful.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And my own father died, and Christ was at the bedside, and I'm holding my dad, and he's in a hospice unit.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, there's 7 white beings standing there, just white, you know, beings. And one was real tall, and I'm thinking, oh, who are all these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Who are all these people? Well, my dad grew up on a farm, and they had a big family, 8 in the family,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the last one, and they've all died and passed away.
Aw.
And so when I looked, I said that the tall one was 6'5", and I looked at him and I said, "You're Uncle Vernon." And then I went, I could see each person, and
Wow.
dad's family came. He was the last one to come pick him up and take him home. So all of this is a great deal of love, and when you stop and think about it, we're surrounded by angels and family. We just can't see them.
Yeah.
And so that's my preamble to the metaphysics, that we are limited. We've got 5 human senses.
Mm-hmm.
But so for human sight, for example, we can see the visible spectrum that's like 400 to 700, what are called angstroms. So the wavelength is incredibly small, a billionth of a meter, unbelievably small. But the energy spectrum's anywhere from a trillionth to a mile. And so our human senses are very limited. We can't see spiritual energy because it vibrates so fast.
Mhm.
But as an example, in World War II, we could see with our human eyes, but now because of technology, we
Yeah.
can see in infrared and we can see in the dark.
Yeah.
Now imagine with more technology, we can now see into the spiritual realm and go, "Ooh, this place is crowded.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people here."
Yeah.
So the way to think of this is we, our true being, our true identity is we are one with God.
Mhm.
And God is divine energy, divine light, divine love. I
Mhm.
just use the word God because that's what I was taught, but
Mhm.
actually God is more than all of that. And you can't define God.
Right.
You can't do it.
Yep.
So some people hear the word God and they say, you should use mother, father, mother, or you should use some other word. And I said, divine love.
Yeah.
But that's what you really are, vibrating at a very fast energy level.
Yeah.
Now, you are also creative thought. So God allows all things to occur, and you have a thought. I wonder what it's like to create without God, go on my own. And if
Mhm.
you have kids or had kids, they come to a point, they go, I do it, Daddy, I do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And it's like, all right, and they walk and they fall. But that's the fall in from the paradise, and it's called a dream state.
Mhm.
And so this world is not real.
Mhm.
We think it's real because we convince ourselves it's real, but it's not.
Mm.
And so in moments of death or in deep meditation, you suddenly realize there's more to this, and you
Yeah.
see this infinity, and what you are is just a tiny little compression of
Yeah.
a body and a concept. And because you are not created by God, you have no energy for self-sustaining. So you are going through phases. You were
Mhm.
a child died and became a young adult, that died and became a parent, that's going to become an older person. You
Mhm.
see, and you're running out of energy
Yeah.
because you're not of God. So at some point, your time's going to come, you're going to go, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you want to go back home. You want to go back to divine love. And so this world is just a temporary truck stop, if you will, a
Yeah.
temporary thing, but it's not real.
Mhm.
And then we create all these distractions to convince ourselves that it is real. Oh,
Mhm.
I've got cancer, or I don't have enough money, or I've got a broken bone, whatever.
Yeah.
One distraction after another, and it pulls your beliefs into the fact that I believe I'm this body. I'm going to die if I don't eat food, you know, if I
Mhm.
have water. And so there's all these distractions that convince you. Then the world convinces you that you're a body and
Mhm.
that you've got to have a job. And you get farther and farther and farther pulled away from your divine nature. And you want to stop that, hit the brakes, turn
Yeah.
around and get back. And that center is in your heart.
Yeah.
It is deep within.
Mhm.
So it's and Einstein even said E equals mc squared. So energy can transmute from one form to another. So you got pure energy, which is God, which is self-sustaining love, is equal to mass, your body,
Mhm.
times, and if you accelerate you to the speed of light squared, you turn back into divine energy. And so you can do that. You start to pick that up by learning to change your thinking, and you learn to become an observer of the world and not reactive to it,
Mm.
and say, oh, my parent died. Well, his form died. I
Mhm.
get that.
Yeah.
But if I learn to get quiet and just say, Dad, come to me. I
Mhm.
want to hear you. I want to feel you again. Because all minds are joined and connected, and you cannot destroy energy and you cannot destroy God. And Dad is God manifested as a Rod Chelberg Senior.
Yeah.
I'm manifested, you're manifested, but when we get on a spiritual plane, we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've lost somebody, just get quiet and just
Yeah.
get past the emotion and get really quiet. Put your hand on your heart if you want, like that, and
Mm-hmm.
just feel. I'm going to feel, and all of a sudden, this beautiful warmth and love come to you, and you
Yeah.
go, "He's here.
Yeah.
He's here."
That's it.
So,
I
and
agree
then
with you. I think you're
yeah,
right.
yeah. So death is just not real. Uh, it's like you drive a car and you think the car thinks it's alive, I'm going to go to the grocery store, I'm going to do all this. And at some point, the car rusts and dies. What
Mhm.
happens? Well, you, spirit, get out, go get a new car. Or
Yeah.
you say, I've had enough of this traffic. I'm going to stay and be with God. That's
Yeah.
my choice at the point of death.
It's a good analogy. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It helps. Getting quiet. I have a few friends who have recently had some losses, and they had the ability to get quiet for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and they had, made it a point to contact me and explain the overwhelming experience they had, and really not only feeling the presence of their loved one, but conversing. And I said,
Yeah.
you know, praying is your prayer, your conversation out, but meditation is listening. That's when you're gonna be able to hear and invite them in, and that's the opportunity. Or be still and not hear them if you don't choose to. You know, Either
Yeah.
way, it's a peaceful state,
Mm-hmm.
and you may just feel them in your heart. You most likely will always feel them in your heart. But
Yeah.
I totally agree with what you're saying about that.
Yeah.
It can make or break how you respond to someone passing,
Mhm.
realizing it's just a shift in energy, you know?
It is.
Yep.
And the tremendous love and peace that you feel. And then you start to look at this world a little bit differently.
Yeah.
That people that are not as far on the path, they're crying for love, and you see that darkness and go, oh, they need help. And because I've now been touched by divine,
Mm-hmm.
I can extend love to them, and your whole life starts to change, and you start to walk in grace all the time.
Mm.
And now you're walking with God, and you can still see your loved ones. So um, I think I don't know how we're doing for time, but the last thing that I think would like to just talk about is the actual event that you're now going to die.
Yeah. That'd
In
be great.
30 seconds, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And the important thing is that you die in peace,
Mm-hmm.
that you learn to let go. Was that upset, that divorce, whatever the problems were, the house, the car, the jobs,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, was it really important? And I can let that go now. And
Yeah.
the more you let go, the freer you become, the more your mind's going to expand, and you're going to
Yeah.
go, oh, I want to die in peace. I've had patients die in anger that had
Mm-hmm.
bad lung disease, and um, they don't go home. They're stuck, and it's like, okay, I didn't learn the lesson. I got to go back and repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
Failed 12th grade. Got to try it again. Um, and
Yeah.
that's all it is. So it's very important when a loved one is dying, is to be with them and hold them in the light of divine Christhood. To just say, I see you as a spirit of God.
Mm-hmm.
You're one with me, and we're totally free.
Yeah.
I can let all this illusion go. That's
Mm-hmm.
all it is.
Yeah.
And then once they go, oh, I see the light. I guarantee you see the light, and then you're free. Then you're
Yeah.
totally free. And so there's a resistance period of a couple of days, um, and then suddenly people just let go, and it's just beautiful. So um, And then the last point, I told you I tend to talk.
That's all right. I enjoy it. Keep going.
But let's say someone like a sister died, and you guys did not get along. Fight.
Yeah.
And you can still communicate with them. So for me, I didn't get along real well with my mom. And I realized how hard her life was. She loved me to the best of her ability. But I saw that because she was broken, she couldn't love me the way I thought I should be loved. So it left me with a hole. And then I started to say, wait a second, I can still talk to her, and I can send her love, and I can send her forgiveness, and she can heal. She can still heal.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to come back and do one reincarnation over and over. And it's just like, I bless you, I forgive you, I send you love, and I open my arms up, like this. And this love comes back to me with a thank you. And she's still working on it. She had a lot of issues growing up. So I, will say, having a rough day, I can feel it.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to hold you in light, and let that divine energy come and be with you. And there's just been tremendous healing for her. Probably 10,000 lifetimes are gone. So just because somebody's not here, doesn't mean they're not right there, and you can still love them.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
care and say, I'm really sorry we didn't get along. I apologize. I forgive, because you're going to start to see their Christ light, and you're going to be bright. So you're going to help them to get brighter. And suddenly you're going to go, oh, this feels nice.
Yeah.
Because I can feel it in my heart. You're harmonizing with this other person. So it's quite lovely. Healing doesn't have to be just this realm. It can be the spiritual realm as well. So, okay.
I like that.
Now
I
I'll be
like
quiet.
that. I do like that. I think that that's really a lovely note to end on, because realizing we are all one, forgiveness and loving, it can be a tough concept, but boy, you don't want that to be the last emotion you feel. Is
No.
bitterness, resentment, lack of love. I mean, that's not how you want to take this trip.
No.
You want to have your fun Hawaiian shirt. You want to be ready.
Yeah.
You want to be happy and joyful and at peace.
Yeah.
And I think you've left us on a beautiful note, actually, and I thank you, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Well, this was really a great discussion and conversation, and
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and I think we have one more podcast that we kind of might squeeze out about healing. So we'll let you know when that's going to come out. But we have chatted about that before too. That's an important concept. We hope you enjoyed this discussion on the unreality of death, as we've all experienced death before, and now we can view it differently, hopefully, and feel that love in our heart. Thank you, Rod, so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for joining, and please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please share with your friends. We will, of course, have Rod's information below after this interview, so if you need to contact him, by the way, he does do counseling and he does do specific appointments, so you can email him and converse with him, and he can explain how that's going to work. I highly recommend contacting this guy right here. If nothing else, through conversation, you can feel that peace and love in your heart. All right, everybody. I want you to take care, be well, be safe, and I will see you next time.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.